The first Princess Sophia should have been happily married to her beloved Prince Alfred. However, due to Rosaline's curse, and it was at this moment of despair that she met the beautiful merchant Raoul. With his help, the girls stood on a high balcony. It was very dark, despite the fact that there was light streaming from the Rosaline seemed slightly out of it. Her gaze was completely empty and did not express any emotion. But she clearly said what the girl least wanted to hear. 3 years ago, she lived the usual boring life of an office plankton. Every day the same thing. The only consolation is reading novels after work. The girl loved to spend quiet evenings reading but a tragedy occurred. She died very young. After death, the girl was reborn as the heroine of her fate. She wanted with all her heart to be next to him, to become his soulmate and enjoy. The story of the novel that Sophia loved so much ended with the fact that two people in love, but unfortunately, there was no happy ending in this story. Too many people wished them harm. Therefore, the end of the happy story was only the beginning of a terror. The whole palace was on ears. The servants fussed and did not rest either day or night. Everyone was preparing for the big event, so no one was sitting idle. And all because two young lovers, the first prince of the Baltois Empire, Alfred Orléans, announced his engagement to his beloved Sophia Montfort. It was a sensation. The whole country and even neighboring states watched the development of their relations. It was a beautiful love story that was admired. But no one expected this story to have. Alfred was the first heir to a powerful empire. He was incredibly handsome, with bottomless blue eyes and blonde hair. In addition, and now, today, they will announce that they are planning to get married. During all this time, young people have overcome many difficulties along the way. In the presence of the entire Baltois family, as well as hundreds of courtiers, Alfred solemnly swore eternal love to the girl. Thousands of eyes watched every movement of the young couple. Everyone admired how suitable these two lovers were for each other. But behind all this festive bustle, no one paid attention to one person, the daughter of one of the richest marquises in the empire. But her face did not express an ounce of joy or pleasure. It expressed some unknown pain, anger, and disappointment. Before her eyes, this trash Sophia. Last night she visited a witch. The girl believed that all methods were good for fighting, so she went to extreme measures. In the fight for the heart of a loved one, all methods are good. The woman warned that giving the girl the item was not as easy as she thought. And besides, the young lady has already spent quite a deal. But Rosaline wasn't worried about money. She had a goal. And the witch asked again if the girl was sure that she wanted. But the young lady did not doubt for a second. She replied that she wanted to get this power as soon as possible. It is with her. The girl was in such a desperate state that she was ready to sell her soul to the devil just to get her beloved prince back. Yes, she would give this soul for nothing, just to be with Alfred. Meanwhile, the engagement celebrations continued. It was too hot inside the room, so Sophia went out onto the balcony to get. The girl began to examine the ring that her beloved Alfred had put on her finger. Now their union is considered legal, and she will continue to develop their relationship, making it even stronger. While the girl was hovering in her beautiful thoughts, she did not notice how it became very cold outside, and the weather suddenly deteriorated. Lightning began to flash. It was creepy to watch all this, so Alfred felt uneasy. For a long time he could not find his beloved in the crowd of guests, but she was always. A few minutes later, he made his way closer to the balcony. Looking through the glass, he saw a familiar silhouette. This beloved one. Some unknown force did not let Sophia leave the balcony. She gazed at the lightning that flashed around the palace. The girl did not notice how the door opened and someone stood behind her. Suddenly, a strange chill ran down Sophia's spine. The girl turned around sharply and froze. Mistress Rosaline stood in front of her. But how did she get here? After all, the uninvited guest did not answer anything, only smiled strangely. A second later, she extended her hand to Sophia and said that she would not give Alfred to her. The first prince was just approaching the balcony door. He felt something was wrong. Another girl stood near his beloved and he didn't have time. I didn't have time for a few seconds. The next moment, Alfred saw Rosaline forcefully pushing his beloved. What has this crazy woman done? She pushed Sophia off the balcony, and she could now die. What should he do? Rosaline didn't move. She continued to stand on the balcony and watch what was happening, but in 1 second everything got mixed up and changed. The black magic effect worked. Everything went according to the plan that Rosaline came up with. As a result of the ritual, the girls swapped bodies. The prince simply became furious. How could this happen, and even on the day of his and Sophia's engagement? That sneaky Rosaline apparently used magic. Furious, Alfred shouted to his guards to grab the witch, and if she resists, he allows her to be killed. He will deal with her later, but now he wants. But to the great surprise of the guests, Rosalind did not even think of resisting. She calmly left the balcony, accompanied by. This incident became a real sensation for all the guests. Conversations and whispers immediately began. What happened that Rosaline dared to push the princess off the balcony? Having dealt with Rosalind, the guards ran to the young master. They were also seriously scared. And when they saw the fierce look of the young prince, they were generally. Having carried the girl to his chambers, the prince ordered that the imperial doctor be brought to her immediately. Let him examine her carefully and tell her what's going on with her. Why does she feel out of place in her body? She was the center of attention, she was engaged, and now she sits in prison, behind bars. She is now in Rosaline. She couldn't look at her reflection. So what to do now? How to return everything to its place? Why did she push Sophia? Why did she do this to her? Sophia replayed and replayed this recent episode in her head. It was some unknown force that pushed her down from the balcony. And in an instant everything changed so much that now she felt it. Something had to be done urgently. Otherwise she risked remaining in Rosaline's body forever. And this vile witch will remain in Sophia's body. But that's not all. She must tell Alfred the whole truth. But how to do that? Now this impostor is next to him, and she is behind bars. Therefore, it will be difficult to do anything, but it's worth. Meanwhile, in the prince's chambers, the imperial physician examined the fake Sophia. Alfred watched them from the side and worried about his beloved. The inspection continued for some time. The prince could not wait for the doctor to finish his work. Finally, it was over, and the doctor approached Alfred. The man said his fiancée was not in danger. The heir to the throne exhaled heavily. He was so scared for the life and health of his beloved. After all, their life together is just about. Already in a calmer mood, the prince returned to his office. Security was waiting for him there. One of the men said that Rosalind should be executed for the attempt on the life of the first princess of the empire. The guard was absolutely right. The villain must be severely punished. How could she even get into the palace? She was not invited to the celebration. A long time ago, the man but Alfred had not the slightest desire to see this abnormal criminal. He won't even delve into how she will be punished. Therefore, he called the head of the security. Alfred walked up to his lover's bed and took her hand tenderly. He was so scared for her. But now everything will be different. He will protect her from all problems and will not leave her for a minute. The head of security entered Rosalind's prison cell. He was absolutely unperturbed, and in an almost calm voice said that for the attack and attempt on the life of a member of the imperial. Wait, how can this be? You can't do that to her. She tearfully asked the guard to take her to Alfred. She will be able to explain everything, because within a few hours, Sophia, in Rosalind's body, stood tied to a large pole, and a fire was being prepared under her. They never took her to Alfred. A guard approached the fire. In his hand he held a lit torch. Only now, the first prince appeared on the square, and in his eyes there was not a drop of compassion for Sophia. This is how the fairy tale in which Sophia lived instantly turned into the biggest tragedy of her life. And here she is. The prince looked straight into the girl's eyes. He didn't expect that a woman like Rosaline could commit murder, and no one expected that this could happen. In appearance, she always seemed calm and balanced. As was customary, each criminal was given the opportunity to ask for forgiveness for his actions before execution. Finally, the girl was given the last word, but something prevented her from uttering a single word. Some unknown force was squeezing her throat, and finally it dawned on Sophia. This is forbidden black magic. She was the one Rosaline used to set this all up. The prince still continued to look her straight in the eyes. It was strange to him that the girl never said a single word. Therefore, he said that since the criminal had nothing to say, then it was time. Well, how can this be? Why can't she speak now? But you need to try. You need to gather all your strength into a fist and try to say at least a Sophia took a deep breath and, making maximum effort, uttered only one phrase. She said, looking into the prince's eyes, that she loved him. Loves him very much. She has nothing more to say. What is this woman doing? He has a fiancée, and she almost killed his Sophia. He will never forgive Rosaline for her vile act. The guard had already brought a torch to light the fire, but then a voice was heard from the side. It was Sophia's voice. She went out into the square and headed towards the fire, near which her lover stood. What is going on? She's Sophia. She is Prince Alfred's lover, and this is the impostor Rosaline. She took her body, her life, his lover, and now he'll set her on fire at the stake, and everything. Alfred immediately ran up to the girl and hugged her. He was worried about her health, and therefore was very surprised that she got out of the room and ended up here. Her body has not yet Fake Sophia looked into the prince's eyes and said that she was asking for 1 minute. She had to tell him something. She didn't pay any attention to the prepared fire and the girl above it. The imaginary Sophia raised her eyes and pretended to look at the prince. She said that even though Rosaline wished her harm, she did not want her to die and asked for her life. But why? Why does she care that the girl is not executed? Does he want her to look at their imaginary happiness? To suffer even more? Yes, it would be better if they... Rosaline continued further. She said that, as the first prince's fiancée and his future wife, she had the right to ask the heir to the imperial throne. Strange. The prince did not even think that his bride had such a kind heart. And Sophia could not understand why this vile criminal was doing this to her. Does he want her to look at their imaginary and fake happiness? Hearing this, the crowd began to rejoice. Their future mistress Sophia is so kind that she is ready to pardon the criminal who wanted her dead. Prince Alfred made the right. Alfred hugged his bride tenderly. He didn't even expect that she had so much kindness and compassion for others in her heart. This means a happy life awaits them. Her future wife is very wise and patient. That's what she thought. This vile thief of someone else's love wants her to suffer, looking at their feigned happiness. Especially for Sophia to see, this scoundrel the look of this scoundrel was absolutely insane. She was enjoying the moment. Indeed, in the most frank way, 10 years ago, Rosaline was just a cute little girl. Everyone loved her, simply adored her. She was well-mannered and helped everyone. He was the first prince and heir to the empire. Rosaline was introduced to the prince by her father. The man hoped that the children would become friends. The alliance of his daughter with the prince was very beneficial to him. And the girl fell head over heels in love with this blonde boy with blue eyes. From the very first glance, from the first minute, she knew that she would... They were still children, but everyone was already whispering that they would make a wonderful couple. They looked great. It was from the day they met that the girl began to be prepared for the status of Prince Alfred's bride. She made incredible efforts to live up to her status and become an ideal wife in the future. It is not enough to just be beautiful and have an influential and status father. It took a lot of effort. She studied a lot. It turned out that being a future princess is not so easy. It's very difficult to be perfect. But Rosalind was not afraid of any difficulties and endured all the trials with steadfastness. She just loved Alfred very much. Rosalind's mother repeated the same phrase to her every day, that the girl was the only one for the first prince. But she needs to always be on alert, because hundreds of brides from all over the... But, to Rosalind's great regret, Alfred did not perceive her as his girlfriend or lover. Because of her importunity, he was rather wary of her. The girl saw perfectly, and even felt the cold that emanated from the prince in her direction. But I couldn't do anything. Her family set a goal, to marry her to a prince, and she was only in favor. And so, one beautiful sunny day, Rosalind saw her beloved prince walking in the garden with some girl. She had long hair of a clear blue color, which made her different from other girls. Everything would be fine. There is nothing strange in the fact that various court ladies revolve around Alfred, but here everything was different. The prince looked at this stranger with admiring, loving eyes. Rosaline decided to watch these doves, hiding behind the bushes. She wasn't wrong. There were clearly warm feelings between the young people, so warm that Alfred did not take his eyes off the girl. However, the girl also did not look away, It was immediately clear that she had the warmest and most sincere feelings for the man. For some reason, Rosaline thought that Sophia was clearly inferior in comparison. This girl is not so educated, probably poorly brought. That's what Rosaline thought. But she was very wrong. It turned out that the Baron's daughter was in no way inferior to her. Plus, she's incredibly beautiful. It was very painful. She put so much effort and time into becoming the perfect match for the first prince. And then some stupid Baron. From a distance, Rosaline understood that Alfred had made no promises to her. Moreover, he never paid much attention to her. Rosaline lived in absolute hell for several years, and now she will take revenge. She does not want Sophia to simply die at the stake. The girl wants her to suffer for as long as possible. Therefore, poor Sophia was locked again in a prison cell. This, of course, is much better than being burned alive at the stake. But what should she do now? Sitting behind bars after some time, the girl became completely depressed from heavy thoughts. What awaits her now, and how to escape from here? She certainly did not intend to meet her old age within these. She was so happy to see her lover. But why is he here? Maybe the prince has finally noticed that. But everything was not at all what the girl thought. It turns out that the prince did not forgive her. The first prince threw a knife at her feet. He said that he was giving her a chance to leave this life with dignity, like a noble. She can't stand it anymore. The first prince may never have loved her if he so easily takes her life. If he loved, he would probably feel that next to him, the girl's hand was already wrapped around the handle of the knife. She's had enough of the suffering and shame. She still won't be able to prove. If there is even the slightest chance to get out of here, then she should take it. So Sophia grabbed a knife, cut off her red locks. The first prince did not expect this. He was completely shocked by what was happening. Noble ladies should not cut their long hair, and the prince liked this gesture from the girl. And for some reason, despite everything, he said that he was setting her free. Sophia thanked the man for his noble deed. It was stupid to explain now that his real beloved was standing in front of him, and Rosaline was sitting there in the palace. He wouldn't believe her anyway. Therefore, the girl decided not to enter into controversy with the prince, thanked him again, and said goodbye. One day, she will find a way out of this situation, and will definitely return her. Some strange feeling did not leave the prince. He stood for a long time in the corridor of the prison from which Rosaline had just been released. He didn't understand what he was guided by. Coming out of the imperial prison, Sophia took a deep breath of fresh air. She looked around and saw the familiar Belmont family carriage. When the girl came closer, she saw changes in the man's face. He was very surprised and upset. Her beautiful hair, which everyone admired, was cut off. Sophia realized that the man would ask what happened, so she immediately warned the butler that she would not explain anything to him. The man nodded, so her fairy tale ended. She leaves the imperial castle in disgrace, and just a day ago she was the bride of the first prince, drowning in love and everyone's attention. Today she is the Belmont family palace greeted her gloomily. She didn't know how to behave here. After all, Rosaline is only on the outside and has no idea how to behave with the Marquis and his wife. It turned out that she was not welcome here. Not happy at all. The mother immediately began screaming that she was a disgrace to their noble and respected family. Following his wife, the Marquis of Belmont also expressed his dissatisfaction with his daughter's behavior. He was extremely disappointed. Yes, the Marquis really wanted Rosalind to become Alfred's bride, but not in this way. How could you make an attempt on Sophia's life? Why didn't it occur to her that what could Sophia say in her defense? Of course, absolutely nothing. These were complete strangers to her. And her act was truly disgusting, and even Rosalind's. According to the novel, Rosaline had a bad relationship with her family. By and large, all because of her selfish nature. In addition, after such an act, this time the parents were really just furious. The father ordered the butler to take Rosaline to her room and lock her there. And the girl didn't even resist. It was simply useless. The butler brought tea. The man loved the girl. She grew up before his eyes. And then terrible screams were heard outside the window. They rebelled and shouted that a criminal like Rosalind had no right to be in the capital of their empire. She was supposed to be executed, but the noble lady Sophia pardoned her. But the people are against the criminal being unpunished and living peacefully in her father's palace. They demand that Rosaline get out of town, and if her parents shelter her, the butler said that he would still have to report this incident to her father. And then they will all figure out together what to do in such a difficult situation. It looks like this crowd will be difficult to pacify. Rosaline's father took this news hard. The butler did not expect a different reaction. The Marquis was extremely irritated. His authority in the country was rapidly falling, and all because of the antics of his abnormal daughter. Sophia was left alone with her thoughts. The girl tried to calm down and put her feelings in order. She replayed all the events that happened over and over again. 100%, black magic was to blame for everything. She tries to tell the truth, but some force miraculously squeezes her throat, and she cannot do it. Even when she tried to write everything that Rosaline had done, her hand would not obey. If she wants to find a way out of this situation, then she needs to look for clues. Since she is in Rosalind's house, it is logical that some traces of crimes can be found direct. And Sophia went to Rosalind's room. She looked at all the details. There were a lot of photographs, and judging by them, as a child, the girl was very close to her parents. But something had to happen to turn from an angel into a monster and become a disgrace to his family. And now Sophia will have to find out what skeletons this terrible criminal keeps in her closet. On the other hand, she committed a crime for the sake of her love. Rosalind put absolutely everything on the line: family, influential parents, authority, money. How dear is the first prince to her, since she was ready to study the dark magic of body exchange, give countless amounts of money for it, sacrifice. Sophia searched every square inch of Rosalind's room, but still didn't find anything significant. Everything is like all girls from rich families. There were more and more people near the palace of the Balmont family. We urgently need to take some action and remove this dark curse from ourselves. Otherwise, she will be driven out of. It turned out that not only her parents did not like her in her own home. All the servants treated her politely, but very coldly. They discussed her on every corner, whispered behind her back. The two maids discussed the current situation in the palace among themselves. They talked about how you can't get rid of the crowd, and this brings big problems to the Marquis and his wife. The girl understood that people could not be stopped. Parents are unlikely to protect and cover her for long. The family's reputation is too valuable to them. Therefore, and it would be even better if she left the empire altogether. This way, no one will interfere with her, and she will definitely be able to find a way to break. While she was thinking, her parents burst into the room with further accusations. They said that they couldn't even leave the house because the townspeople. They thought for a long time, looking for a way out of the situation. But nothing can be done, so they decided to kick her out of her parents' house. The Marquis was silent for a while and added that it would be better for everyone if she left the castle by this evening and never returned here again. Neither father nor mother expected such a reaction from their daughter. They thought that the girl, as always, would begin to be indignant and throw hysterics. How Sophia wishes everything would go back to normal. She dreamed of returning to the arms of the first prince and making joint plans for the future. She took nothing with her except a small suitcase with the most necessary things for the trip. Much to the surprise of her parents, Rosalind said goodbye. The girl left her parents' house without regret. Although this was not her house but Rosalind's house. Therefore, she did not experience any warm feelings for this place. Now all day Prince Alfred was like a cloud. He didn't want to see anyone and didn't leave his office until the evening. I couldn't get Rosaline's action out of my. There was a knock on the door, and the prince's assistant appeared on the threshold. He returned with news. Alfred gave him the task of finding out where. The assistant said that the girl first went to her parents' palace. But she was not welcome there. Plus, the townspeople began to riot. Therefore, Rosaline officially immigrated from the country. As soon as the assistant disappeared behind the door, there was a knock on it again. But he didn't want to listen to anything anymore, and didn't wait for anyone. But his Sophia appeared on the threshold. It seemed that for the first time he felt a slight irritation at the sight of his bride. He wanted to be alone now. Therefore, the guy reminded the future princess that she should rest. The girl did not expect such a reaction from the prince, so she immediately asked for forgiveness for disturbing his peace. She thought that he was working a lot and was tired, so she made him some delicious. Alfred realized that he had gone too far. He was too harsh with the girl. Therefore, he explained that he was simply worried about her health. He tasted the tea, and he was not the. Sophia asked if the tea was tasty. She tried so hard and put rose petals in there for a better scent. Now she will prepare this. Prince Alfred decided not to offend the girl anymore, so he answered the question that the tea was very tasty. But in fact, fake Sophia almost melted with happiness. This is the day when she found herself in her place. Now it will always be like this. Rosaline looked at the prince drinking tea and thought that it was not in vain that she suffered so much. It was not for nothing that she took up dark magic and spent a lot of her father's money on it. The result was worth it. The prince is now with her head in the clouds. She didn't immediately notice that Alfred wasn't smiling and wasn't really looking into her eyes. So she did something wrong. She asked the prince to share with her what was tormenting him. She reminded the man that very soon they would become a real family. Therefore, we must share all the joys as well as problems. She will always listen to him and try to help. The prince said that according to the latest information, Rosalind left the empire, and this deceiver began to rejoice inside. Well, finally this vile Sophia got out from. What luck! Sophia fled the country with her tail between her legs. This incident must have seriously angered her parents, so she made sure to send it as far as possible. The next moment, Rosaline clung to the prince and began to feign extreme regret. But on the other hand, she could try to kill her again if she stayed in the country. The prince hugged his fake lover and said that he also felt guilty for what happened that evening. Everything happened so quickly that he did not have time to react and prevent. Alfred hugged the girl even tighter. He vowed that he would never let anyone hurt her again. He will always be there and protect her. Even knowing that this is not real, even knowing that with her actions she had ruined the life of another girl, Rosalind smiled meanly and Sophia managed to leave her parents' house unnoticed. The crowd of protesters did not see her. Thanks to the fact that the girl read the novel, she roughly understood which direction to move. According to her calculations, Sophia should have reached the neighboring country long ago. But oddly enough, the city she was heading to was not yet visible. The girl was damn tired, so she sat down to rest a little. Perhaps even sleep for a few hours on the lawn near a beautiful tree. It was necessary to think about the subs. Suddenly the girl heard some sounds. And then I saw where they were coming from. It was a big cart. There were several men around her. Apparently they were traders. One of the men complained that their business was gradually losing money. Maybe in the next city they will have luck and a lot of buyers. But his partner asked not to complain. While talking, the men did not see that they were not alone on this forest lawn. A young girl was sitting under a tree, not far from their cart. It seems that the most important person in the group approached Sophia and sat down opposite her. He smiled friendly and asked what the girl was doing alone in such a place. Perhaps she needs help. The man was clearly not from these lands. Sophia immediately appreciated his appearance. He was very handsome. The look was bold and confident. For some reason, the girl was sure that he would not harm. The man thought that something unpleasant had happened to the girl, so he came up and offered his help. Sophia noticed that he did not look like an aristocrat at all. Then who is he? The girl said that she was heading to the city of Rudin, but the road turned out to be too long and difficult. So she decided to rest in the shade of it. Now she will rest a little and continue to look for the way to the city. Unfortunately, she doesn't have money to accompany her, so she has to cope alone. The man smiled and looked Sophia straight in the eyes. It turned out that his team was also heading to this city. It seems they can help the girl. It's a pity to leave such a beauty in the middle of. Sophia understood that the trip cost money, so she asked how she would pay for the service. The man said that if she didn't mind, then upon arrival in the city, she would help them with trade. Thus, she will pay off the debt for the trip. Now everything has become clear. These people are traders. They travel from city to city, selling their goods, which they produce in their own enterprise. The girl understood that she had no other choice. Moreover, the offer was more than attractive. This way she can get to the city and continue her investigation. Therefore, Sophia happily agreed. The guy introduced himself. His name is Raoul. He has been trading for a long time. The man asked not to be afraid of him and his friends. They are peaceful people and will deliver her to the city. Sophia understood that now she could not introduce herself by her real name, but you can't call yourself Rosalind either. So she came up with a new name for herself. From now on, her name is Leah. This is her very first name. Dating was quick and pleasant. The guy was very cheerful, cultured, and immediately put you at ease. It was easy with him. The young people approached Raoul's partners. The guy introduced the girl to his friends and said that she would go to the city with them. Then Leah will be happy to help. The merchant put Leah on the cart. The guy didn't stop looking at her on the sly. He seemed to really like the girl. All his friends knew. The carriage traveled all night. But Sophia did not close her eyes for a minute. She thought about Alfred. How is he doing? Has he really not yet realized that next to him? When the cart stopped, the girl went outside to get some air. Raoul followed her. He noticed that the girl was worried about some thoughts and decided to cheer her up a little. The guy started with compliments. He said that he had visited many countries, but this was really the first time he had seen such a beautiful girl like Leah. Raoul regrets that he did not meet. Indeed, Rosalind was considered one of the most beautiful girls in the empire. Many rich and influential men asked for her hand in marriage. But she always knew that she would marry Prince Alfred. Raoul said that Leah is completely different from other girls. He had never met anyone like him. She has very good energy and she attracts other people. Although her appearance was praised, in her heart she still remained the same Sophia, who was madly in love with Alfred. Therefore, the girl asked. The man was definitely not one of those who were rejected by girls. He's not used to this kind of behavior. But he whispered in Sophia's ear that it was even much more interesting. It is always more pleasant. In the morning they reached the city of Rudin. Of course it was much smaller than the capital, but it looked very beautiful. Small clean streets, pleasant townspeople, calm atmosphere. Raoul was immediately surrounded by girls upon arrival. It turns out that he is known and remembered here. He was very popular among. Each of the girls tried to attract his attention. Each offered to spend this evening with her. And the man liked to drown in the attention of local beauties, but he didn't give anyone a chance. In the end, he chose a girl for the evening. The guy smiled at Sophia, making it clear that he would be busy in the following hours. Wow! The girl was shocked by this behavior of the man. She did not expect that just yesterday he called her the most beautiful, and was the next morning the girl decided to take a walk around the town and see all the sights. After the walk, Sophia decided to rest a little and sat down. She was lost in thought, so she didn't notice that she had been sitting on the bench for quite a long time. Also, the girl did not notice how Raoul quietly approached her. He said hello and asked what. Sophia decided not to hide the fact that this man was unpleasant to her. Therefore, the girl said that she was disgusted to look at Raoul's behavior like this. But he helped her on the road. The guy already knew very well that his behavior hardly resembled ideal. Therefore, he took the criticism in his direction and gave the girl her work clothes. It was a cute and very comfortable. The girl asked how much she owed for the dress, but Raoul replied that he would not take a penny from her. It suits her very well, so let her wear it for her health. What kind of manners are these? How long can you let your hands go? Sophia turned around and pushed the guy away, and then reminded him once. Usually all girls like it when he pays attention to them, hugs them, and gives compliments. But this one turned out to be completely different, unusual, and this had a strange effect on the man. Young people came to some building. There were a lot of barrels there. There must have been alcohol inside them. Sophia was right. These people were engaged in supplying wine to. The girl thought that she would pour wine into containers, but Raoul said that she would be doing something completely different. Her task is to serve the tavern's visitors, bringing them food and drink. Seeing the girl, the tavern owner was surprised. She won't be able to work here. Firstly, the girl is very beautiful, and secondly, but Raoul calmed the man down. Yes, she has never worked, and this will be her first experience. But there are always few visitors in the. The girl assured the tavern owner that although she had no experience in such work, she would make every effort to be useful in their business. This was her chance to meet new people. Perhaps this way she could learn something about forbidden magic and regain her old life, as well as The situation in the tavern really left much to be desired. Therefore, the owner agreed. He was glad of any help. Perhaps Raoul's plan to attract visitors will work. And the girl began her immediate duties with joy and full responsibility. There weren't many people in the room, so it wasn't difficult to work. A few days later, a rumor that a very attractive girl had started working in a tavern near the market spread throughout the city. Everyone wanted to look at the young waitress also, because she was from a foreign. After only a week of Sophia's work in the establishment, there was no end to visitors. Everyone had fun, the girl was very nice and knew how to carry on a conversation. She was also not afraid of. The owner of the tavern was more than pleased, and thanked all higher powers for the fact that one day, Raoul brought the girl Leah to him. He never tired of thanking the girl and constantly said that she saved his business. And also Raoul's business. After all, now beer and wine flowed like a river in the tavern, and One day Sophia decided to try her luck. She approached the owner and asked if he could, in gratitude for the work done, allocate a separate room for her. That way, she could rest normally. One evening, while cleaning the room, she asked the owner if he was interested in magic, but the man replied that he simply did not have time for such activities. And he's not interested in. When asked why she needed this, the girl replied that she was conducting some investigation. The man promised to ask regular customers. A few days later, Sophia was called over by one of the visitors. He often visited the tavern, but this was the first time he approached the girl. He asked if she was interested in magic. The girl came closer to the man and asked what he knew about dark magic. She is very interested in this, but he only brought his face closer to her and said that he. Fortunately, the owner was in the hall and saw that his waitress was being dirtily accosted by a drunken visitor. He reacted quickly and approached the table. He asked him to leave his staff, but it turned out that the visitor was not only drunk, but also aggressive. Therefore, the man roughly pushed the owner in the chest and he fell onto a nearby table. Fortunately, Raoul was sitting in the tavern with his friends. He saw something was wrong and came over to investigate. The guy saw that the owner and he again moved closer to the waitress. He really wanted to hug her with his paws. The girl kept away from the drunkard as best she could, but it was obvious that their strengths were not equal. In an instant, Raoul jumped up to the man and grabbed him by the shoulders with a death grip. It is worth noting that the merchant had more than enough strength. Therefore, barely getting to his feet, the visitor tried to find the door to the street and quickly leave. Otherwise, he had a chance not to get out of here alive. Raoul would be happy to take care of this. Then Raoul turned to the girl, who continued to stand in the corner and tremble with fear. He asked if she was injured and if she was okay. It was clear that the girl was still in a state of shock, but still managed to thank the man. He became her savior. And this is not the first time. He pulled her out of the forest, helped her get to the city. Now, thanks to him, the owner of the tavern and she herself remained alive. And he also wonders if everything is okay with her. Maybe he's not as bad as Sophia thought he was. The owner of the establishment also approached the guy and thanked him for his help. He got a lot of trouble from this unbalanced guy, and it would have happened even more if Raoul had not arrived in time. Then the man began to apologize to the waitress. He wanted the best, told this visitor that the girl was interested in magic. He thought he would help. Who knew what his intentions were? Raoul breathed a sigh of relief. Glory to the higher powers that everything ended well. And yes, it's very good that he came here just now to have a bite to eat. But he seems to be going crazy over this girl. In the neighboring empire, everything went on as usual. But something in the first prince's heart broke. He behaved differently than before. A kind of sheer sadness appeared in his eyes. The prince informed his assistant that he was going to visit several settlements that were most affected by natural disasters. This is his direct responsibility. Assistant approved Alfred's decisions. It's a good idea to visit the small towns of the empire. This way you can unwind a little and change your surroundings. In addition, it wouldn't be Rosalind if she hadn't overheard the men's conversation. She was very upset when she learned that the prince was leaving the palace for a while, including her. Therefore, the girl grabbed the prince's sleeve and resolutely declared that she must accompany him. After all, they will get married very soon, so his beloved should always be nearby. But, to the girl's great surprise, the prince pushed her hand away and said that this was not an entertainment trip, but a work trip. Sophia, to say that the girl was upset is to say nothing. She didn't even try to hide it. On the contrary, she began to be capricious and behave in a manner inappropriate for a princess. Why is she acting this way? This goes beyond palace etiquette. She wants to be with him all the time. And this is already starting to make me nervous. His fiancée had never been like this before. She calmly let him go on all his trips. Perhaps she has changed since that fall. Maybe she has an injury. She has become restless and tries to control everything. He is also to blame for this. No matter how Sophia asked or persuaded him, Alfred still decided to go without her. This will be correct and much calmer. He took with him an assistant, but in Rudin, everything went on as usual. Business was especially good at the tavern. After a hard day of work, everything in the hall was already cleaned, and the owner sent his. Coming out of the tavern, the girl met Raoul. He was preparing his van for the road. When Sophia asked where he was going for the night, the girl was sad that Raoul was leaving the city. She got used to his presence and constant support. But he replied that traders have very little free time. They are constantly on the road. He would also like to stay in this cozy town and live in peace, but money will not earn itself. Therefore, in order to survive, he has to want. The girl became noticeably sad. Indeed, he works a lot and hard. And most importantly, he never complains about his life. On the contrary, the guy tries to. It turns out that the guy's life was not at all pampering. He was born into a poor and not very prosperous family. Therefore, he had to earn money to survive, and no one ever felt sorry for him or sympathized with him. He was not lucky enough to be born with a silver spoon in his mouth, unlike, for example, the children of. But Raoul believed that it would not always be like this. The time will come when he will stop traveling around the world with his cart and selling wine to taverns. He will try very hard and regain his normal life. The girl didn't really understand the guy's last words. What did he mean when he said he would get his normal life back? But he had already turned the cart around and finally shouted that they would definitely meet again. She felt frankly sorry for this guy. I wonder what kind of life he strives for. Maybe he also experienced some tragedy in the past. Maybe he was also tricked. The next morning, the delegation led by the prince reached the town of Rudin. Everything here was the same as a year ago. Everything is. The prince and his assistant visited the mayor's office and sorted out current affairs. Having gone out for a walk at lunchtime, they noticed that everyone was heading to a tavern, which was located not far from. Alfred became interested in what attracted the residents of the town to this establishment. Maybe the food is delicious there? And he and his assistant decided to check it out, and at the same time, as soon as they crossed the threshold of the tavern, they heard pleasant, quiet music and cheerful noise. A girl came out to meet them. She was carrying beer to someone and smiled sincerely at the guests. What a surprise the prince was when he realized that this sweet, cheerful waitress was Rosalind, the same Rosalind who almost killed his beloved Sophia. But what is she doing here? Something turned upside down in the man's soul. It was because of him that this girl left her home and now works as a simple waitress in a tavern, far from her family. How strong she is. But the prince's train of thought was stopped by a crowd of men. They were glad that Mr. Alfred paid them a visit, but he was supposed to arrive only tomorrow. He probably decided to make a pleasant surprise. The tavern owner immediately ran up to the prince. He asked him to make himself at home. Now His Majesty will be served at the highest level, because he is so. Sophia stood in the corner watching everything that was happening. She never thought that she would meet the prince so soon. What is he doing here? And why did. Seeing the criminal, Elfrida became furious. He asked what this girl was doing here and how she got here. Sophia decided to quickly leave the tavern so as not to escalate the situation further. She will now be disgraced in front of everyone and called a criminal. Better to leave. The owner of the establishment did not understand what was happening at all. He asked Leah if for some reason he was leaving his workplace. That's it? The prince realized that she had changed. The girl was already near the front door when Alfred called out to her and asked her to stop. The girl turned around. He looked her straight in the eyes and asked her to give him a few minutes. They have a lot to discuss. There was nothing to do. She returned to the tavern. The questioning began. She confirmed that she had left her home. But then the girl asked a counter-question. What is the first prince doing? Alfred calmly explained that a volcano erupted at this place a long time ago. Many local residents died. Since then, he visits the memorial, which the visitors confirmed Mr. Alfred's words. The first prince really supports this city in every possible way, and all the residents are very grateful to him for this. This man is worthy to be an emperor. Alfred thought for a moment. If only he were a little stronger. He could restore life in this small, cozy town. It would be even better here than before the disaster with the volcanic eruption. Then the first prince began to ask those present what changes had happened in the city over the year. He was told that life here had become much more fun and lively with the appearance of cutie Leah. The man couldn't believe his ears. Is it really true that Rosaline changed her name and now works as a waitress in a tavern? She had never worked a day in her life. She is the daughter of an influential marquis. Alfred's eyes got even wider when the owner of the establishment said, "The girl works tirelessly. She is interested in the development of the town and almost does not spare herself." The prince understood why the girl changed her name. But is this the Rosalind he knew before? The Marquis's daughter was slightly arrogant, confident. The prince's assistant said it was very suspicious. Why would a girl work here? And why did she stop in this city? She probably knew that Alfred would come here and be up to. Alfred watched the girl. She really worked without rest, and everyone here loved her. But what was she up to? Maybe his assistant is right. Suddenly, all the tables in the tavern began to shake. The guests did not immediately realize what was happening. And something terrible happened, because an earthquake began. The prince reacted with lightning speed when he realized what was happening. He shouted to his guards to take the people to safety. He asked visitors to. Everyone saved themselves as best they could. Many people ran out into the street and watched the tavern building burn. Visitors to the tavern, talking among themselves, noticed that the owner of the establishment was not outside. This means that he remained inside and was probably. No one understood how it happened that the man remained inside the room. Perhaps during the fire he went to the pantry to get food, and then was unable. Sophia was infuriated by this situation. Everyone stands and does nothing. So the girl ran to the well, took a bucket of ice water, and doused herself from head to toe. Alfred, watching all this, was in complete shock. How a girl who almost killed his fiancée, and when she ran into the tavern, she did not immediately see where the man was. Everything around was on fire, and he was lying in the far corner, near the pantry. Overcoming pain and fear, so gathering all her efforts into a fist, the girl tried to lift the owner of the tavern. Fortunately, he was conscious and heard her instructions, so they, supporting each other, headed towards the. The girl did not notice how a huge log supporting the ceiling in the room fell directly on them. But then Alfred appeared out of nowhere and prevented a terrible tragedy. They were saved. What is the first prince doing here? And why the hell did he even run after her into the burning room? She would have done a great job herself and pulled the owner out of the flames. Within a few minutes, all three, tired, a little burned, but very happy, got out. Everyone greeted them with loud cheers, and we were also amazed at the courage of the young girl. Thank God everyone was safe at this point. The owner, Verney, was very upset. He lost his entire business, the work of his whole life. So what should he do next? While everyone was examining the owner of the establishment, Alfred walked up to the girl and hugged her shoulders. He asked why she threw herself into the fire. Without hesitation for a second, Sophia replied that she was incredibly grateful to this man. A month ago, he saved her, gave her a job and a place to live, so she wanted to repay him in kind. The prince looked at the girl for a long time without saying a word. After a long silence, he asked a single question. Is this really the same Rosalind who left the empire a month ago? The girl also did not answer immediately. It was very painful for her to realize that the prince doubted his conclusions, so she calmly said that she was not Rosaline. Her name is Leah. The next day, almost all the residents of the town gathered near the tavern to help its owner remove the rubble from the fire. Sophia was also there and very active in helping. Oddly enough, meanwhile, in the neighboring town there was already a rumor about an earthquake in Ruden. Raoul heard the news that his friend's tavern had burned to the ground. The merchant didn't think for a second. He quickly collected all the necessary things and rushed back to the city of Ruden. He urgently needs to find out if the girl is alive. She may need, and indeed, help was needed. He needed to protect the girl from the impudent Prince Alfred. What did he forget in their town, and why does he allow himself to pester Leah? From the outside, it seemed that Raoul hated the first prince with a fierce hatred. The merchant asked if the nobles were really so bored with the ladies of the court that they decided to switch to simple waitresses. The next second, in a rather rude manner, Raoul reminded the prince that he was engaged to a certain Sophia. So let him return to his bride. There are enough problems here without him. The guy took the girl by the hand and took her away from the fire scene. His soul burned with anger. Sophia asked why the guy was so rude to the future ruler of the empire, but he asked her to be silent. The girl decided to change the topic of conversation and tried to find out how the guy ended up back in the city. He replied that he was very worried about her. What? This guy was worried about her and that's why he returned to the city? This cannot happen before. She is in such a position now that few people are interested in her life. And the guy asked what connects the girl with the first prince of the empire, because at first glance it was clear that they knew each other. Raoul sincerely asked Sophia. The girl wanted to ask more about why Raoul was so opposed to Alfred. But he said that he was not going to explain anything. Just let the girl take his word. It would be better for everyone. The mayor of Ruden promised the prince that he would ensure that all those affected by the earthquake and fire received compensation. It was very good. Therefore, Alfred ordered his assistants to prepare everything for laying honors at the memorial in the city center. Sophia saw the prince from afar, so she approached and asked if she could also attend the ceremony. The man didn't mind, but then Raoul, this situation has already begun to openly anger the girl. Who is he to constantly tell her what to do? Let him then tell you why and why he hates Alfred. There was definitely some serious conflict between them that happened before. It was obvious. The tension between the men was such that sparks sparkled in the air, and it was within an hour. A ceremony dedicated to the victims of the natural disasters that happened in the town began on the main square of the city. After the official part ended, the mayor of the city thanked the prince for not forgetting and honoring them with his visit and presence at the memorable evening. Raoul watched. The first prince replied that he shared the townspeople's feelings of sorrow. He is sorry that the city is suffering such troubles. And this year, he would also like to visit the place where the volcano. A lot of people went on a hike to the volcano with the prince. Sophia and Raoul were no exception. The girl really wanted to see the volcano up close, and also to stay with Alfred long. Sophia didn't take her eyes off Alfred. They used to be together all the time, and if everything had not changed, he would definitely take her with him. Raoul was frankly angry at the fact that the girl he cared about was constantly staring at this pompous and self-confident prince. What did she see in him? He will soon leave here anyway and leave her. The girl was also already at her limit. This situation doesn't concern Raoul at all. Why does he constantly interfere? And why does he always scold? The group walked for quite a long time. Sophia was already a little tired, so she walked behind everyone, and the closer they came to the volcano, the darker it became around. Suddenly, everyone stopped. It became completely dark and very hot. What miracles are these? But the elders said not to come too close. One of the elders said that after the disaster, a large number of dangerous springs formed on this mountain. They are dangerous because if you step into this territory. And then the girl heard the main information for herself. It turns out that in ancient times this land was cursed by dark magic. This is what she is looking for. Raoul laughed out loud. Do the elders really believe in these fairy tales? Magic hasn't existed for a long time. All evil spirits were driven out of the continent. Even the prince confirmed the hypothesis about the existence of dark forces here. He said that many people, climbing the mountain in search of water after the disaster, none of those present could guess who needed to curse these lands. Every year there are more and more dangerous craters, and the reason for their occurrence is not clear. Sophia thought for a minute. If the elder has such information, then perhaps this person could tell her something about removing the curse of dark magic. The next minute the ground beneath them began to tremble terribly. Another earthquake began. Everyone was terribly scared. Panic began. The ground beneath them split, and the girl did not immediately realize that the ground was disappearing from under her feet, and she was beginning to fall somewhere at a terrible speed. But at the last second, it seemed that the man was holding the girl very tightly in his arms. But then some terrible force began to tear Raoul away from Sophia. Nobody understood. Suddenly the girl felt him let go. She fell painfully to the ground, and some dark forces began to pull the man in an unknown direction. Out of fear, she was afraid. Still, she gathered her strength and turned around. Raoul screamed that he could not move. Something was pulling him to the very bottom of the abyss. He didn't have enough air. The rest stood and looked in horror at what was happening. Each of those present knew that the guy could no longer be helped, because if you touch the water with even a finger, death will. And only the young brave girl Leah ran up to the abyss filled with dark water and lowered her hand into it. She was still trying to grab Raoul's hand and help him get out of the water. The water was so dark, muddy and dense that it was simply impossible to see anything. Raoul tried to see Leah's hand. He knew that she had come to. Sophia began to really panic. Because of her, Raoul could die. The likelihood of this happening is very high. But then she felt a strange coldness throughout her body. The air around became sticky and very unpleasant. She was surrounded by some strange dark substance and her body stopped listening. But Alfred couldn't look at it. He tried to get closer to the girl and pull her away from the abyss. But his assistants did not allow him to do this. They were afraid for his life. He is his own person. Suddenly the water in the gorge became clear. Everything around was illuminated with some strange silver light. The girl was gathering all her last strength into a fist. Sophia helped the guy get out of the water. He was very exhausted, but still stood on. But then the screams of men were heard behind them, and to the girl's great surprise, they all shouted that she was a witch. No one before her could touch this water and survive, and she did it. She is a real sorceress. The girl was able to use her magical power to absorb the curse and purify the water in the gorge. Now the curse has been lifted from their land, and the city will live complete. Is she a sorceress? How is this even possible? Sophia herself was looking for some sorcerer to free her from the magical curse and return her to her native body. Raoul ran up to her and started shaking her by the shoulders. He begged not to listen to these old senile people. There is no magic here, and she is definitely not a sorceress. Those present began to assume that the girl was very dangerous, since she possessed such a powerful force and should be feared. But Raoul objected. If she is an evil sorceress, then why did Leah save her? The men thought. Yes, if she possessed dark power, she would hardly clear the water from the curse. In addition, she showed herself again, and once again saved him. The girl admitted to Raoul that she herself did not fully understand how it all happened. But she definitely felt all the darkness from the water just being absorbed into her body. Therefore, to make sure that she mastered magic, the girl went to the next curse source and looked at the dark water. She needs to put her hand down and cleanse the source. Of course she was very scared, but there was no turning back. We need to check everything. So she held her hand in the water, and within a few minutes the one who couldn't believe what was happening for a long time, was the elder. He had been looking for a way to purify the damned water for so long, but to no avail. And this sweet, fragile girl. The man began to thank Sophia. She brought them such relief. Now they will be able to use water from the springs for a variety of purposes. She is a real sorceress and their savior. The elder said that only a cursed person can master a magical gift and then lift curses from others himself. Therefore, he directly asked the girl if there was any curse on her. Everyone immediately turned their gaze to Sophia, and waited for an answer, including Alfred and Raoul. This was especially interesting to them, but the girl was silent. The prince thought about it. He felt that something was wrong here. Some strange force pulls him towards this girl, and her energy is damn familiar. Only in the evening, the group returned from the volcano to the city. Residents were already aware that the springs on their lands were cleared of dark magic, and the water from them could be used to avoid any further trouble. Raoul decided to accompany Leah home, but Alfred called out to her. He had long ago guessed that the girl was cursed with the help of dark magic. And now he asked if she knew about it. And if she knew this for sure, she replied that, no matter what danger awaited her on the way, she would really like to know the truth. She simply needs this. Because her whole life, he felt very sorry for the girl. The common people don't know much about dark magic. Should he tell him about the forgotten lands that are associated with dark magic, which only the royal family know? Not everyone can see and know this land. Only a certain number of people know about it. This earth is fraught with many secrets and serious dangers. But the girl was not at all frightened by such information. The result was important to her. Therefore, she had no choice but to ask the prince for permission to visit the forgotten land. This was not the same Rosaline who had nearly taken his fiancé's life. She has changed a lot for the better, and deserves forgiveness. The girl's voice broke his train of thought. She begged the prince to tell her about the forgotten lands. She needs to break the curse. Her future happiness depends on this. And the prince began the story. It turns out that there is a place in the world called Magical Ruins. Only magicians with secret knowledge live there. This knowledge is both light and dark. Well, Alfred warned that local residents are not particularly happy with guests, and they don't really welcome outsiders. They created a special barrier that an ordinary person cannot pass through. To get to this country, you need to go straight west for 3 days. There will be a place where a sandstorm constantly rages. They say that it is in the center of this storm that those same ruins are located. Alfred also said that he had already gone there once in order to remove the curse from the sources of the city of Rudin. However, he was never able to get through the barrier. But he thinks it will be much easier for girls to do this. She will overcome the barrier because she is already under the curse. He is sure that she can get to this. He knows this is a very dangerous place. But since the girl is sure that she wants to get there and lift her curse, then he will not interfere with her. Suddenly, Alfred's assistant intervened in their conversation. It turns out that he overheard everything and was against the girl going to the city of magical ruins. After all, the prince did not stir up the conflict, so he nodded to his assistant and said goodbye to the girl. He wished her luck and really hoped that if Raoul had not run up to Sophia, she would probably have stood in the middle of the street for a long time in a complete stupor. The guy said that after a few more days, Alfred returned to the imperial palace. It was necessary to give a report to the emperor about the work done. Alfred entered the hall, got down on one knee, and bowed to his father. He said that the trip to the city of Rudin was successful. They managed to stop natural disasters. Emperor Christopher Orleans loved his son very, very much and was confident that in the future he would become a wise and fair ruler. As for the report, he was already informed. When she learned that her beloved Alfred had arrived at the palace, Rosalind fluttered with happiness. She ran along the corridors, hoping to meet the prince, but it was all in vain. But instead of her fiancé, the girl met the prince's assistant, Mr. Léon. The man told her important news. In Rudin, she and the prince met The girl's mood immediately dropped to 0. She just flew into a rage. After all, I felt that I had to go to this damn city with Alfred. This damn thing still haunts her. The imposter could no longer restrain herself and went straight to Alfred's office. He greeted her with a smile, but she immediately attacked the man with reproaches. Why did he meet with Rosaline and what did they talk about? At first, the prince tried to calm his bride down. He said that he met the girl by chance. She stopped in this city and now works as a waitress in one of the taverns. She is not. The bride began to be indignant that the prince promised to expel the criminal from the continent altogether. So why does she live in Rudin? Perhaps she is developing some cruel plan of revenge. Leon entered the office. He, as always, eavesdropped and said that Rosaline could really be dangerous. Therefore, he fully shares Madame Sophia's concerns. Rosaline, the impostor, quickly realized that in the form of Leon, she had a good ally. She showed offense on her face and asked the prince for forgiveness for acting too. Alfred decided to calm everyone down. He said that Rosalind has perfectly adapted to the role of a commoner and copes well with the duties of a waitress. All the residents